What's up, car guys and car gals, all things automotive, Andrew here, and I'm hoping you guys are having a great start to your new year. Today's topic for this automotive vlog is going to be automatic versus manual. Which one should you choose? Now, before I start, I just want to make the point that unfortunately manual transmissions are dying out. It's a dying art to drive a manual transmission, unfortunately, for those of you in the United States. Now, however, if we're talking about Europe, anywhere overseas, manuals are a lot more prevalent. I'm sure many of you, when you first learned how to drive, learned on an automatic. I would actually be pretty stunned if anybody, you could leave your comments below if you let me know if you actually learned how to drive a car using a manual. So in the United States, most people opt for an automatic transmission. I would venture to say that the overwhelming majority of the population in the United States that drives buys their car with an automatic. Like I said, they're slowly dying out. It's unfortunate, but I wish we could save the manuals. Now, to get more in depth into the topic of today, let me try to help you answer this question if it could be answered, is which one do you choose, manual or automatic? Well, for me, it depends on two different things. So it's the type of car that you're going to buy and then the type of driver that you are. Now, what I mean by the type of driver that you are you a driver that just drives to drive, as just to get from point A to point B, you merely drive a car as transportation? Or do you like to enjoy your driving experience? Most of those that really aren't car enthusiasts, that could care less about, cars in general, they just buy a car as a means of transportation, I would venture to say that probably most of them go for an automatic transmission. I don't want to say that they're the lazier of the driving population, but those that really aren't too intrigued by cars or could care less about their driving experience or even get fun out of it probably opt for the automatic. As many of you know that watch my channel, I own a 2007 Ford Mustang Gt. It is a 5-speed manual, and this is actually my first car. No, I did not learn how to drive on this car. My first car that I actually drove was a Honda Pilot. That's what I actually learned on, and obviously it's an automatic. They don't make a manual. But the first car that I ever owned was actually a manual, and that's because I enjoy driving cars. I mean, I enjoy the driving experience, and I think it's so much more fun to drive a manual in this type of vehicle. Now, I'm going to get to my second point, or actually I think it was my first point actually, was the type of car. Now, my car, I really enjoy it. It's awesome. It really connects you to the driving experience having a manual. Would I opt for an automatic in a Mustang GT? No, and that's why I didn't buy an automatic. I actually did extensive research when I was looking for this car, and I had it in mind that I was going to get a manual 5-speed. I was not going to settle for an automatic. Even if I got a steal, like if I stole the car, you know what I'm saying, for a tremendously low, under book value price, I still wasn't going to get an automatic. Now, getting to my point about the type of car, well, yes, in my opinion, it has to be a certain type of car for me to get a manual. I'm not just going to opt for a manual just because the manual transmission option is available. So an example of this would be an economy car, like a Nissan Versa, one of the slowest cars out there. I think it might even be the slowest production car. I know it's probably I think it's the cheapest new car out there, but that's besides the point. But it's one of the slowest cars on the market, and it's got a manual transmission option. Would I opt for that if that was the car to get for me? Absolutely not, and I'll tell you why. Because I think it's way more of a hassle to buy that car and drive it with a manual transmission platform than it is with an automatic. Pretty much the reason you buy that car is for transportation. It's not sporty, it's economical. That's the difference. So if it was a totally economical car, there is no way, not a snowball's chance in hell, that I would opt for a manual transmission choice in an economy car. Needless to say though, however, your car can be economical and sporty at the same time. You can have a manual transmission economical vehicle, meaning that it gets pretty solid gas mileage and you can have fun with it. And a couple examples of this are the Honda Civic Si, one of my favorite economical and sporty cars that is only available with a manual transmission. Thank God. And the Scion FRS or the Subaru BRZ, also very economical and super fun cars to drive. And if it was up to me, I would have it manual only as well, because me personally, those are driver's cars, and I really think they should only be available with a manual transmission. But again, that's getting off on a little bit of a tangent, but yes, however, if there was an automatic transmission choice for the Civic Si, I would not take it. When I'm driving a fast car, to me, there's nothing more gratifying than ringing out first gear all the way, hearing that engine scream all the way to redline, that adrenaline's flowing, then you stomp in that clutch and you rip it into second gear and you continue. There's nothing more gratifying and more exciting to me than that. And that's why I'll forever hope that there's going to be manual transmissions in enthusiast type cars. Now, there is a caveat to my stance on the type of car influencing my decision whether to choose an automatic or manual transmission option. So here's the caveat. If my favorite car in the world is the Lamborghini Aventador, but that's besides the point. If that was available with a manual transmission option, I wouldn't take it. And I'll tell you why. So, for me, if I'm gonna buy a car that costs nearly $500,000, I'm gonna want the latest and greatest in transmission technology. You know, that car is all about going fast. And to me, doing it the old-fashioned way, shifting the manual, you're not going to get the boasted ridiculously low 0 to 60 times, 0 to 100 times with the manual. I want to be able to rely on that computer to shift the car so fast that I can have these spaceship type speeds that I'm going to be achieving with this car. So, and if I'm going to put the money out there, like I said, about $500,000 for a car, again, I don't want... You can call manual transmission shifting the car the old-fashioned way. That's how I'm going to refer to it in this vlog. Some of you may disagree, but to me, that kind of feels like it. I kind of associate it with it being cheap almost, because as many of you may or may not know, the manual transmission option for any car, if it's available in an automatic and a manual transmission, is actually cheaper. It's considerably cheaper than to opt for an automatic transmission. Most cars, automatic transmissions are an option, and it's about a $1,500 to $2,000 option. So if you're looking to save money, yes, it's cheaper to get a manual. So in my opinion, as nice as like the gated shifters that, you know, Lamborghini makes are, I still, if I'm putting out $500,000, nearly that kind of money for a car like that, I'm certainly going to want the fastest in transmission technology, the most seamless and quick way to shift that car so that I can be achieving these race car speeds, you know, in a supercar that I'm buying. For all those that are speed demons out there, as we all know, it's pretty generally agreed upon that the automatic transmission is second to none, always faster than the manual transmission, and here's why. It's computer controlled, and I don't think there's ever going to be a human in existence that's going to be able to beat the fastest automatic transmission out there. Don't get me wrong, there's some pretty slow shifting automatics out there that may not be like dual clutches or anything like that, that'll be just automated manuals for sure. You could probably beat those, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be some technology, automatic transmission technology out there in which like even the most skilled drivers are not going to be able to beat. There's always a considerable amount of laps in times between an automatic transmission 0 to 60 and a manual transmission 0 to 60. There's always about 0.1 to 0.2 difference, 0.2 seconds, so 1 to 2 tenths of a second difference in that 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 time. A factor to consider when choosing between a manual transmission or automatic transmission vehicle is this vehicle going to be your daily driver? Now, many of you know that I drive a 2007 Ford Mustang Gt. I reviewed it, by the way, go check it out. It's a 5-speed manual, and it is my daily driver. Now, it depends what type of driving you're doing on your daily driving basis. I opted to drive a manual transmission because I'm not hassled by anything like traffic or a bunch of stoplights or anything like that. I do mostly suburban driving, where it's mostly, you know, not too many people on the road. I'm not commuting at rush hour or anything like that. So it's not a hassle to me to be driving a manual transmission vehicle. As fun as this car is, I certainly would not have chosen it as my daily driver if I lived in somewhere like New York City or like Los Angeles, where the rush hour traffic is killer and you're going to be sitting in bumper to bumper traffic for 45 minutes to an hour. That's going to be a hassle. I don't want to be continuously wearing out my left leg letting out the clutch, putting in the clutch, making that neutral to first consistent gear change every time you have to inch up a little bit in rush hour traffic. It's not fun. I've done it, and let me tell you, it can be torturous at times. So I would say that if you commute or your daily driving is in an area where you're gonna hit some serious bumper to bumper traffic consistently, meaning every day, it's not just like, oh, spur of the moment, there's an accident, you know, and that's, you know, okay, one in a week that happens, or, you know, once a month that happens. Okay, you know, that shouldn't deter you from buying a manual. I'm talking about every single day, you know for a fact that you're gonna be hit with either rush hour traffic or that 2:30 traffic, you know, when you're coming home from work or going wherever. So I would say opt for an automatic. Another point I want to make is to bring up the myth. I truly believe it's a myth, sort of, or like a sales pitch, that manual transmission vehicles get better gas mileage. Now, that's not completely and totally true, and here's why. Yes, depending on what kind of driving you're doing, manual transmissions do have the potential to get better gas mileage. And that's solely based upon the fact that how you want to shift the gears. So if you want to ring out first gear and ring out second gear all the way to red line every time, you know, you're not going to be getting good gas mileage, obviously. But if you're going to be a very conservative type driver with your manual and you shift from first straight to fourth, so you're keeping your RPMs as low as possible and you're trying to save as much fuel, try to get as much gas mileage as possible, then yes, they do have the potential, obviously, to be more economical. But with the new advancements in automatic technology, it just seems like every company's got this this idea in their head that, you know, the best way to be economical is to just keep adding more and more and more and more gears to the transmission. We have like 10-speed automatics now, which is crazy. So, you know, having more gears gives you the advantage of being able to lower your RPM, say like on the highway. Now with Dodge, they seem to be adding like more and more gears to their transmission, and Ford's getting on the bandwagon and everything like that. You know, having your car in 10th gear on the highway doing 55, you're probably barely at 1,000 RPM. So you're gonna be saving, you know, a ton. So to necessarily say that manual transmissions, if the option's there, take it because it gets better gas mileage, I would do a little bit more research. Another point I want to make in this vlog is the age-old question: should you learn to drive, I should say, on a car that has a manual transmission? Should that be the first car at 16 years old when you have your permit? Should you learn on a manual transmission to learn to drive a car? Well, my answer to that would be no. So, when you're brand new to driving, there's usually two different crowds of teenagers. There's the overconfident ones, and then there's the ones that are very intimidated. And I feel like the ones that are intimidated to drive, there's no reason, I can answer this one easily. The ones that are intimidated to drive, I don't think there should be an extra step, because driving a manual is complicated on its own to new drivers. So adding that extra step is just gonna intimidate them more. So I don't think it would be wise to learn on a manual transmission. And those people that are overconfident out there, you get a false sense of overconfidence, you know, when you're driving. So if you're the big shot type that thinks, oh yeah, you know, I'm just gonna learn to drive a car on a manual, you're gonna get yourself into a lot of trouble. So me personally, I would say no, don't learn on a manual transmission vehicle. When you get the basics of driving down on an automatic, then I would say graduate to a manual. Then you can start to add a little bit more complication to the process of driving, and it's just going to be a whole lot easier, because I feel like driving is the foundation, and then driving a manual is just a next step above. So I'd just like to say that it doesn't make you any less of a car enthusiast if you don't know how to drive a manual. And let me give you an example. I'm sure many of you have had experiences like this, but a lot of my friends who drive automatic muscle cars or sports cars or what have you catch a lot of flack from the certain crowd of people at the car meets or whatever. They say, oh, you're not a real car guy, you're not a real car gal because you don't know how to drive a stick, or you bought your car in an automatic, what a wimp. How more fitting than to wear a shirt like this for the vlog today. I hope you guys can see that. No, I don't believe any of what that says. It says real men use 3 pedals. That's just kind of a joke. A friend of mine got it for me, but no, absolutely not. It does not make you any less of a car enthusiast if you don't know how to drive a manual, so don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So, I hope I covered the topic of this vlog to the best of my abilities. please be sure to leave your comments. Let me know when if you drive a manual, or when you learn to drive a manual, or what your opinion is on this topic. As always, this has been All Things Automotive Andrew, and I'll see you guys next time.